Hi everyone, it's Debbie from Paws and Pencils Art. So today I thought I'd bring you along while I draw this beautiful dog portrait and talk you through one of the most important skills in coloured pencil, and that's layering. If you've ever struggled to get that soft realistic fur look, or your drawings feel a bit flat, this is really going to help you. So this is the reference photo I'm working from today. What I love about this one is the mix of warm browns, deep shadows, and these lovely lighter highlights around the ears and the chest. I'm working on dark grey Pastelmat, and this is perfect for building up layers gradually without damaging the surface. I'm using Polychromos pencils today, and I'll mainly be working with a range of warm browns, dark sepia tones, and a few lighter creams for the highlights. You don't need a load of pencils, just a good range from light to dark is key. When we talk about layering in colour pencil, what we really mean is building colour slowly in thin controlled layers rather than pressing hard straight away. It's a bit like glazing and painting. You're gradually developing depth, richness and realism over time. But if you go in too heavy too soon, you lose that softness and it becomes much harder to fix. Okay, so you can see I've already been working on the head, and I've already been adding some different layers and different colours. So you might think it's a bit strange that I've got a pinky colour there, but that actually adds to the warmth of the dog. So what I've also done as well, just to help with the colour direction as well, I've actually lightly blocked in the colour for the body, and we start with like light pressure, and the fur direction is very important. So I've mapped out the shapes and not the details. So what I've done is I've checked the direction that the fur has gone in, and the way that I've mapped out my colour is I've actually mapped out in the same direction that fur is actually lying on the body. So what I'm going to do to show you is I will, because with the lower layers we don't actually use sharp pencils. I mean, it's got a bit of a point on it, but it's quite sort of blunt now. Is what we do, just put some of my glassine paper over it so I don't smudge. So take this part for instance. So I'm just sort of lightly adding this is the ivory, lightly adding it, and I'm holding the pencil quite far up, and I'm going very lightly with it. And I also need to sort of map in that part as well, which I haven't done yet. So you can sort of see, because this is dark paper, you can sort of see these white lines on there. And what I've actually done is I've transferred the drawing over using white transfer paper. So that's Sarrel transfer paper I've used. And I use that to transfer it over because the white is going to disappear underneath the actual colour pencils. So I just want to add that in for the moment. And that's what I mean by sort of blocking in the colour like that. And that's going to be near where the tail is going to be. Okay, so light pressure and going in the direction of the fur is very important, because if we didn't and we just coloured the dog in exactly the same way, it would look flat. So I'm just having a look right where those lighter tones are, and that's why I'm coming in here. Just like this. With, you know, with light pressure. And because this paper has a lot of tooth, it can take loads of layers. And I'm just keep referring back to my reference photo so that I can see exactly where to look. So I'm just coming over like that. I don't want to go too far up the top there. There we go. And I've just added a few layers in with that. Then, so by doing this, I'm not trying to draw any individual hairs just yet. So this stage is all about placing colour and understanding the structure of the fur. So, you know, we've got the back part of the dog, and we've got, because this is where the leg is, and the leg's folded under, the fur is coming down that way. It's not flicking out. And then you've got the tail, so the fur is flicking out that way. And basically what we're doing is, when we're colouring in animals, whether it's feathers or whether it's fur, we're actually just going in the same direction as the animal that we're drawing. So it follows the contours of their body. Because if you sort of pay attention, and when you're out and about and you're looking at, even if you've got your own pet, have a look and you'll see whether you've got a pet bird, a pet rat, pet dog, cat. Have a look when they're sat down and how the direction of the fur changes. And if we were actually just going down like that all the time, it just wouldn't look right. It would totally throw it out of proportion. Okay, so got those details in there with the ivory. Okay, so then what you would do is you would build your midtones and depth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to introduce some slightly darker tones. And when you're actually layering, like you can see here, I've not just sort of layered with one colour pencil. I've built up with different colours and added fine details over the top. And then what that does is you can actually sort of see that the dog has got a lot of brown on the top around the eyes, but it's also got lighter fur around here. I've not finished on this part yet, but it's got lighter fur coming through, and that sort of blends into the lightness of this part of the ear. And then you've also got the darker tones of the ear, which I've not actually added in yet. And we do that because you don't want a solid block of colour and then not have any detail on the top. What you want to do is just build it up so you can see that the fur has layers. So what I'm going to do is I am going to so I'm choosing my colours carefully. So I'm going to come in with a brown ochre on this part because it's quite warm, and I'm paying attention to my reference photo. So there, And so it's not the white there or the lightness of the ivory, I'm going over the top with this. So this won't be the only colour that I add to this. This part here is quite warm. And again, I'm still going lightly. I won't go over that part because that part is lighter, but this part has got warmth to it. And this is actually sort of quite lighter, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with some cinnamon, which is what that part is there. So Pastelmat will take lots of layers so that you can get all of your different tonal values in. So you can sort of see how the colours are building up there. So you can see the ivory through there. You can see the brown ochre that I layered on top just there, and you can also see the cinnamon. Okay. So I'm just coming onto that part there. And then what I want to do is just add some more of that, the brown ochre. So I don't know if you can actually hear the way that the pencil is moving across the Pastelmat, that it's making a like a scraping noise. And that's because the Pastelmat has quite a bit of tooth on it, and that's the reason why we can add the layers, is because the tooth of the paper sort of really grips into the into the sort of the layers and the pigment. So this is a raw umber. So I'm just adding in some other colours through there, and then I will come in with the ivory again. So this gives you an idea of the layering. So this stage is just all about adding place and colour, and we're just understanding the structure of the fur. So like I mentioned just now, it's the form of the animal and the fur's over the top, and it all changes whatever direction that the animals either stood or sat. Okay. So I'm just going to add some of the brown ochre to the tail part. So we've got a warm part there. And let's have a look. Sometimes you'd be quite surprised the actual different colours that you'll find when you're actually drawing animals. So this, I'm using a light yellow ochre, that. And you probably think that you wouldn't find that on there, but it sort of encourages lighter tones. And I'm just going to come in and add some more of the ivory over the top. Right, okay. So this is just all about adding all of our different colours, and I can also see that we've got, this is nougat, there's some other warmer browns going in there. Sorry, that's my glassine paper on the floor, but that's fine because I'm using this to sort of rest my hand upon. So I'm just sort of adding layers along here. And just look at the way that that fur's coming down. And just look at the way that my pencil, you know, the direction I'm using with the pencil. So I tend to sort of, at the end of fur, when I'm sort of coming down the animal like that, I sort of tend to go bottom to top. So I'm just coming over the bit where we've added those layers in. So you won't see the white once we've added all of our colours in. And of course we're coming down here, so I'm top to bottom on this part. And I'm just looking at the reference photo all the time whilst I, you know, add my different layers, so that I know that I'm adding it with the direction of the fur in mind. Okay, just come in with a bit more cinnamon. So, like I say, at this stage, this isn't these aren't the final layers. I'm just sort of blocking in. And adding in the colour, so you can just sort of see how it looks. And then I will come in with the raw umber just along here. Like that. And I've mentioned this a few times in my tutorials, that when you're actually blocking in those earlier layers, it can go through an ugly phase. Don't worry about that. Just sort of keep going with it. What we're trying to do is just sort of get in all those wonderful warm colours coming through. And the final layer is when we sharpen the pencils to bring in the finer detail. So I'm just going to come in with the brown ochre. Like that. So what I'm doing is I'm again going with the bottom there and coming up underneath that darker fur. Like that. So at the moment it's kind of like looking a bit muddy here. That will change as well a bit later. Okay. And then I'm just going to come in with some walnut brown and just show you this darker area that we're going to be coming in there, into there. So at this stage you can see all of the colours there. And we've got a bit that sort of comes across there. Again, just a reminder, this is the colour blocking stage and layering. Okay. And we've got, right at the end there, we've got darker bits of fur there. And you can sort of see how that's all coming together. Okay, so I'm just starting to add more of the definition now, and what that does involve is flicking movements with the pencil, and that sort of defines some of the length and direction that fur is coming into. And we just like flick out like that. So coming down here, And just coming down at an angle like that, and you're sort of bringing it together. And I'm just looking at the reference photo, just seeing where that actually goes. And what you tend to do with this part, you're varying the stroke length like that, and then as you come down, they're longer, the flicks are. And you can just sort of see, with all the colour that we've added, the effect that it has when you're sort of layering and building up, you know, building it all up. And I'll show you the darker area with the dark sepia. I mean, this is going to take more layers, but I'm just sort of giving you an idea of what it's going to look like. And you'll notice that I've not actually drawn any lines or anything. And I'm just sort of giving you the idea of like how that actually looks. Like that. And what you can also do is, well, so we're just running the dark bits through there, is when you're layering your darks over lights. So we've got the lighter area, we're going to over that with the dark, and then I can use a lighter. So this is the brown ochre, and I can sort of come in through there, and I can add the warm colours coming through. Like that. So, you know, light over dark. I mean, so for instance, I wanted to sort of dull this down a bit, then I could just come through with the white and add highlights through. Like that. Just to sort of smooth it out, and then if I wanted to come in again and come in with the dark sepia, I can go over the top and it will take that layer again. So it's because the this dog has long fur, you can sort of see where I'm building up all of the layers, and you can sort of see how fluffy the actual fur is on the dog's coat. So one of the biggest mistakes to make is actually trying to do fur in one layer, and you can sort of see that doesn't work, and that's why we have to use loads of different colours. So, and what it does to get it looking like this, it really comes from building it up gradually, like you've just seen me do here. So of course this part really does need a lot more layers before it's actually finished, but it just sort of gives you an idea of how to do it and why, why we do it. So if you take one thing away from this video, let it be this: light layers first, like I have here with blocking in some of that colour. Building slowly, so I've shown you how to sort of build and add lighter layers, and if you do it too heavily too soon, the tooth collapses and then you just can't do anything with it. And so that's why we build slowly, and then we also, like I say, follow the direction of the fur. So this is coming out that way and around, and then you've got other bits it's going to sort of twist around because of the way that the dog's sitting. So that sort of creates the realism. It's the slow layering and not using heavy pressure. So if you've enjoyed this and you'd like to learn more about layering, fur techniques and drawing animals step by step, I go into this in much more detail inside my Pencil Paws Academy, and we cover everything from beginner basics through to full animal portraits, and you can learn that at your own pace. So I'll be filming another video again of this dog, and then you can sort of see how that looks in connection with the rest of it, and you'll sort of see the colours being balanced up and all the different layers that I'm going to be adding. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Happy drawing.